I took my 15-year-old out just once so far, and he actually asked again the other day. We just didn't work out. And I took him out driving, and it's so fun to see it through their eyes, right? Because it's just every little thing. Like parking is so exciting, right? Yeah. And a little heavy on the takeoff and a little clunky on the stop. But I get it, right? They have no feel. Like they just don't have any clue what's going on.
Welcome to Bad Parents, a podcast about three bad parents who are trying to raise good kids. She's Shauna.
Hello.
He's Ryan.
What's up?
And I'm Johnny. A Tell It Like It Is podcast for parents to laugh, cry, and to make you feel better about your parenting.
All right, on this edition of the Bad Parents podcast, it's a smorgasbord potpourri of all sorts of things. We talk about driving and getting your license. We talk about, in Florida, it might be easier to get a gun than to get on Instagram if you're under the age of 16. And Johnny's dilemma of trying to fill up his summer camps already in February. Enjoy.
It is a big, big, big day on the Bad Parents podcast. Welcome to the podcast. My name's John.
I'm Shauna.
And I am confused. Why is it a big day? And I'm Ryan.
It's a big day because today is the 28th of February, and it is the day in which all parents in the town in which I live in and the municipality and whatnot get to choose their kids' summer plans now. Camps and activities are all today.
That's so soon.
Do you remember watching like old school World War II films where like they're going to do some sort of like invasion and they have like a map set out and everyone's standing around a map with like tanks and whatnot, and how are we going to mobilize to get the that's been the last 2 weeks.
And then can I just say, and they always sound like this, they'll be like, we'll set up a station here, and here.
Yeah, they all have like a pointer. So like, we
like
legit like wrote out like a list, like each
Johnny.
name. So Jack is going to do sport ball, basketball, skating, friends at play, and wacky science.
So Jack, you're going to be here, and here.
Yeah. Olivia, taekwondo, basketball, skating, just overall arching summer camp, which could last 8 weeks, who knows? Art adventures and karate camp.
Whoa.
Ooh, karate camp.
These are all things that we're hoping to try. Like, you make the list of wants greater than the list you can do.
Right.
You shoot your shot, much like, I don't know, like a paintball course. You're just hitting shots.
Yeah.
Whatever sticks, hopefully
I was
sticks.
picturing Ryan at the bar, but same thing.
Same thing. And I find that it's so financially draining.
Mm-hmm.
It's so emotionally draining because you feel like a failure if you didn't get your kid into whatever they wanted to get into. I don't remember my parents kind of like like my mom sent me to Camp Twingo for 2 weeks. I really liked that. A couple years, that was fun.
Yeah.
But the sort of like every day scheduled sort of something. And I don't think I'm over scheduling them. They're not going to get into everything I just asked for.
No, that's just your ultimate
but
sort of.
But it's just like it's so.
What if they do? What a nightmare that would be.
They get into everything?
We'll have 10 nights a week.
I can't afford it.
No.
So Olivia does gymnastics. She's got like 2 more classes of gymnastics left, and she really, really likes it. And the renewal form for gymnastics, and right, like when I say this, Ryan's got a son who plays extremely high level hockey, and I can only imagine what that bill is. If you have a daughter or a son who does like super high competitive dance, I can only imagine what that bill is. Olivia's 5. Jack is 3. The renewal for her to do gymnastics is $411, which turns out to $31 a class.
Oh,
that's
$31
a
class
for somersaults.
I'm like, what?
Yeah.
And you feel like such a dipshit because I can't afford it.
Yeah.
I can't afford it. It's not that I can't afford her to do gymnastics, but I can't afford her to do gymnastics, taekwondo camp, summer camp, Jack Deuce. I can't afford it all.
Well, I think, more people are like you than anyone else. Like, I think you have to almost pick, right?
No, absolutely. You do. But I'm just like, we consistently talk about the inflation rate and things going up in price. Like $411 for 8 weeks of gymnastics.
Was like an hour long?
Lot. Yes, an hour once a week for an hour.
Yeah.
Like it just seems like a lot. And I feel bad because, I remember like even parents just underneath me are like, I just want to have my kids exposed to everything. Then they pick and choose whatever. I can't even afford to expose them.
You know what else is really difficult? That's difficult. But then let's just say your kid does play, say, hockey, right? And so you have that, like you said, the cost is astronomical. But then what happens is you'll find out there's a skate going on, right? Hey, there's a little side skate happening. Do you want to come? You know, this player, this player, this player. Or some, now you get your kids' age where they know what's going on,
Yes.
right? Because they're talking on their PS4. Hey, you going to that skate? And now you're like, wow, it's $80 that I didn't expect to spend. And
Exactly.
it's the keeping up with the Joneses,
Because
the pressure.
you're now in a new realm. Like we just signed into AA rep baseball. Same thing, Ryan.
Yeah,
Next
right.
thing you know, they had a meet and greet, but that pizza party was like
Yeah.
I think it was $60 or something like
Yeah, it
that.
doesn't end.
And then there's outfits, and it's a whole new world.
We didn't have to, and Johnny is a bit of a we got to do everything. So if she's into it, I'm into it, right? So if
Okay.
she's doing gymnastics and she wanted the outfit.
Mm-hmm.
So I bought the outfit. It was $50, right? So $50 on top of whatever gymnastics was. But now that outfit's done because she's not going back to gymnastics. You wear it around the house, have a little bit, but you know what I mean? Like to your add-on sort of whatever.
Of course.
And I think that like financially as a parent now, there's so much pressure that Jack goes to daycare 5 days a week. We have to take him out 2 days
Mm-hmm.
and save ourselves X number of dollars of him being
I
out
get it. Yeah.
in order to be able to put her in camp.
Right.
Because, we work early hours. I'm not there in the mornings. My wife has a job.
Yeah.
So during the summer, what do you do when you don't have family around to be able to take care of them on a consistent basis? Like, from like 9 to 5.
Yeah, it's a
I know.
lot.
It's a massive ask.
Yes.
So thank goodness that there are these camps that you can enroll them into, but they are expensive.
And they're expensive, and you got to get on the ball. Look at this, like February.
Right. And that's the other problem, right? Now you're talking about like scheduling, right? And you don't know which one you're going to get. And maybe one's on a Tuesday, one's on a Wednesday. Maybe
Yeah.
you work evenings. You know what I mean? Like,
Oh man!
There's so much
and then you
on
got to
parents.
figure out your summer. Then now you got to figure out your summer vacation because
Yeah.
you don't want to book a camp when you're going to
Sure.
be going somewhere.
Because I sent you guys a text asking you about
Yeah.
2 weeks in July. Does this work? And you're talking February 28th today, and how much of forethought you need to have.
Yeah.
It's a lot, and I just kind of I'm like sometimes parenting, especially when it comes financially, because they're not even into clothes yet. Like they're not even into shoes. Like Rye, you said your Christmas it was like PS4. Like my kids aren't even
crazy.
into the expensive stuff yet.
It's nuts, man.
Like the personal expensive stuff.
Oh yeah.
And so you're just kind of like, that sort of parent guilt, but
Yeah.
Can I also ask, because maybe I really am a bad parent, because my other two kids they just played sports, right?
Mhm.
And my middle son does do a hockey camp. Is this the one where you got to get on early in the morning and stuff?
it's like 8 a.m.
And it's just like every parent's doing it?
Yeah.
And it's all online now?
Yeah.
So because I think back in the day you used to line up go in the middle of the night, right?
Yeah.
People still do. People still do in some towns in this country, which is Canada. Ours is lucky enough to be online. And the cool thing is they've actually done it like, when you're at Amazon, you put things into a cart.
Yes.
So it's not like you have to like
Okay.
take Taekwondo at Mondays at 5:30
Mm.
and then pay for it. Then all that time is being wasted while you're signing up to other things.
Right.
You can sign up to everything, blah, 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 put it into a cart, then pay for it all at once, which is, it's almost, I'm so surprised how well done
Yeah.
the website is. Like,
Right.
because I'm like,
Because it's government.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So
So could you also go on a standby list? Be like, because
Yes.
let's just say that you end up getting more than you want, and you're like, we can't do that.
So you can get on standby lists, like if something is oversold, right?
Yeah.
Or there's a waiting list, and hopefully somebody backs out. So you just kind of, like I said, you just kind of shoot your shot. We're going to enroll her for camp all summer, but we're going to roll back some weeks because I'll be off
Right.
whenever we decide what our vacations are. And the cool thing is you get it as credit,
Yeah.
so you can put it towards
I'm stressed.
Me too.
towards other things, and it's hard.
I'm so stressed. You know what I would do?
Mm-hmm.
I would, once you get everything done and you know where you're going to go, I would put a map out of my town. I
Mm-hmm.
would bring my kids over, and I would say, Daddy is drinking here, 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 and here.
I don't think we talk a lot about like politics on this show. I think by choice, right? Just there's not really,
There's no
it's
fun.
It's a safe space.
Yeah.
And especially like, we're in Canada and the story comes from the States. It's like Florida. You guys tell me what you think, okay? A bill to create one of the nation's most restrictive bans on minors' use of social media is heading to Republican Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, who has expressed concerns about the legislation to keep children under the age of 16 off popular platforms, regardless of parental approval.
Whoa.
So even if you said to your son who's 16, Jax, Shauna, no problem. You can be on TikTok. It's totally fine. Just, let me know, blah, 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 blah. Santa's saying no. Doesn't matter what you say as a parent, that you just can't do this.
What's the age again?
16. The bill targets any social media site that tracks users' activity, allows children to upload material and interact with others, and uses addictive features designed to cause excessive or compulsive use.
I don't hate it.
Can I just say, as a parent who, having a 16-year-old, the amount of control that I feel I have is not as high as the government.
Yeah.
And so I think, and also if you have a rule, it's also what all their friends are doing. It's and not that you're trying to parent the way everyone else's parent is, but it's very hard to make those mandates when they live in a world where all their friends are communicating in such a way. So it almost requires a government approach if you're going to affect it on a big enough basis that it will have any kind of change.
It's a great point. It's almost like school uniforms.
Yes.
It's just easier to have them, and then you don't have to worry about that because everyone's in the same boat.
Yeah, and you don't have to worry about, if, 3 of your classmates have, Instagram, and my parents won't let me. Well, now nobody's allowed to.
Right.
Now, obviously, opponents say it blatantly violates the First Amendment and that it should be left to the parents, not the government, to monitor child's social media use. I don't necessarily like the government hand in my house. I'm not a huge fan of it, but at least it takes that sort of iron out of the fire. I don't because so many studies have been done about social media and the direct impact on their mental health and all these sort of things where, let's say your kid's at home and sees that there's a party going on and they weren't invited to the party, and you're like, I don't need this right now.
Yeah, that's
I don't need my kid feeling like it's a Saturday night.
Exactly.
Now I got to deal with this. At least it's kind of like I get it and I don't. And I like it and I don't.
I know. And beyond that, the kids are so smart in finding ways to get on it. So you may have your rule in your house and you may think they're not on it. And then they've got a backdoor account. They've got this, burner phone or whatever. I'm not saying they have all that stuff.
Sure.
But they can find a way. So it almost has to be from, a DNS server approach where they just can't do it or else they're tricking their parents.
Do either of your oldest kids have social media on any sort of whatever?
Yeah. And right now, so you're talking about a 15-year-old and an almost 13-year-old.
Do they follow me? I need more followers.
And it's very innocent, right? Like it's a lot of gamers they follow. And
I don't
like
think
that.
it's as innocent as I want it to be.
Yeah, you don't think so?
I don't. Not the 16-year-old.
Yeah. My 13-year-old, a lot of his is hockey stuff, and he gets excited if there's a couple guys that have turned into stars, to that generation. Yeah. And they follow them back and they get all excited. So right now it's not so bad. But I also like what you mentioned there about the addictive part of it and stuff. Even if it is unclean and on the up and up and no one unsavory is talking to them, I can see their behavior. They're wired for this stuff now. Yeah. Everything's quick and fast, and they don't have patience anymore.
When's the last time they watched a whole movie?
Right, they just don't.
They don't.
And so that now I will say you mentioned about you don't like the government kind of getting into your house, but we do that for so many things, right? They can't smoke till a certain age, they can't drive to a certain age, right? So we do bend to the government for a lot of things. Yep. So I understand that people would be like, okay, where is it going to end, right? And this is just another thing potentially that they're going to do.
Well, just because there was a law in this province, which is Ontario in Canada, that you can't smoke until you're whatever age, doesn't mean I was hacking darts at 15, right? There are obviously, ways around it. I think we've all enjoyed an adult beverage in our youth. Yeah. And so there are ways around it. You're absolutely right. Very rarely did any sort of my friends' parents be like, hey, come on over, have some drinks. It just didn't happen. You had to do it in secret in a forest or a barn. Yes. That's just the way it was. I kind of like it. I kind of like it because I feel at least there's so many sort of pressures on our kids to be mentally okay. And I take, it's very hard for me to kind of, that responsibility to me is very waning. It weighs heavy on my shoulders.
Absolutely.
On if they're okay already. And my kids are 5 and 3. Do you take your kids' mental health? Do you do any sort of mental health sort of stuff at all?
Check in on them and stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Especially the older one, because it's just, that's an age, that's a tough age, right?
I'm always, I feel like every time I talk to him, I try not to, but I'm always checking. I'm always checking to see if he's okay. Because I remember being 16 It's a lot. And so sometimes he is just tired, but then sometimes I'm like, is he okay?
Yeah.
Like, okay.
Okay.
And I would love to, like I said, even some of the stuff, he's on his phone a lot. But then I see other 16-year-olds and they're on their phone a lot. Not that it makes it okay.
No, but there's comfort in numbers.
But it's a different time. And there's oftentimes I just feel out of step and I don't know if I'm doing a good job that way.
And I also wonder if kids who, between the ages of, let's just say 13 and 17, have the emotional wherewithal to know that what they're doing and the impact it may have on others, whether it be words or whether it be, posts or whatever, without either knowing that it's doing it or just being like not understanding the ramifications of saying a certain thing, right? Like if you go up to somebody and you're just like, you're ugly. And it's just a word.
Yeah.
Doesn't, and I'm saying it and I'm angry or whatever, jealous, who knows what kids do in order. But that could stick with that person now
forever
for a really long time. I've told the story about I used to play basketball in high school and I played on the grade 9 team and I really enjoyed it. I liked it. And you go next year, you try out for the team again. And I walked in and it was kind of a mixture of junior and like senior players. And one senior player looked at me and said, "What are you doing here? Why are you here?" And I never played again.
Oh, man.
And that's high school. That's grade 10. I'm
know.
talking about, I'm 49.
Yeah.
48. Anywho, it doesn't matter. But I still carry that every day where I'm very conscious because of that one moment that this person would not even, if I brought it up, there's no way this person would even remember it. But has affected me to such a point where now, because of that, I'm very conscious of the way that things are said and done around my kids.
Well, not only that, like we at least got a break from some of the bullying, right? Like, we joke that, our generation is different and you tough it up and that kind of stuff. And, and I get it. But these kids now, there's no escaping it. Like when you're done at 3, you're like, as much as I don't want to see that guy, it's not till 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. These poor kids take it, 24/7. So there's that whole part of it as well.
There's so many elements. The magazines for girls' body image. Johnny, you're the only one here with a daughter. We had the 16 magazine. We had those magazines that were, in the ad campaigns that make, where you compare yourself.
Yeah.
I can't imagine having Instagram.
Oh.
And I do it now.
Yeah.
As a 40-something-year-old woman, I'm comparing all the time.
Yeah.
I can't imagine having had that other extra layer of social comparison when I was, teenage girl.
Yeah.
So there's that too.
Do you think just asking you as a woman, with all these sort of campaigns that have come out about how like, love yourself, and you see a lot of influencers like just be yourself and it doesn't matter and blah, 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 blah. It still does, right? Yeah. Like it doesn't matter how many people tell you, like, for example, I struggle with weight in the way that I look. And I've said many a time that I don't want to be a fat old dad because I have the youngest kids. And I'm currently a fat older dad around my children and my friends and that we associate with in our town. And, it bothers me as a male, the way that I look just as much as it would bother anybody else. And I as much as you're supposed to love yourself, and we were joking, you and I are going away to Punta Cana, and you said, "Are you taking your shirt off?" And I jokingly said, "I'm not," because blah 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 blah. And then somebody like texted in, is like, "You need to show your kids positive body imaging by blah 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 blah." And I'm like, "But if I'm not like,"
I know, I remember that.
Okay, I get it.
Yeah.
But just because I'm not comfortable with it, is there a responsibility to me to? I don't know. It's hard. It's hard, right?
I think the campaigns
I may have not
are
made
helping.
any sense there.
No, I see what you're saying. Like, is it changing? Because there's the Dove body campaign there. I know Kylie Kelsey, or Jason Kelsey's wife, is part of this new campaign about, body positivity. I do think it's better. I see it in the girls.
Oh, that's good. Then I'm glad, because I wouldn't know.
I think it's affected them. You could even tell by the way the girls' bodies are, like when I dropped my kid off at high school, everyone dresses like there seems like everybody's sort of, there's a variety, and yet it's not affecting the way they dress. Does that make sense? Like when I was in high school, if you weren't a thin girl, you would wear like the baggy clothes. But now everybody's wearing.
They're very confident.
They're very confident. Yeah. And I think that has to speak to it working,
Good.
right? Where all
glad.
different types are accepted. I feel like it is. I could be wrong. I don't have a daughter, but I
Right.
do feel like that.
Yeah, no, I as an outsider with not a daughter and a man,
Yeah.
I feel like everything you said, you're right. Because when you were talking there, I was thinking about these different commercials. Like there's one for like women's like underwear for like, I don't know, like if you pee yourself or something.
Yeah.
And they had like all different size women on there, right?
Exactly.
And like you wouldn't have saw that in the 90s.
And I know Lululemon has, a variety of models. You can pick the model to see the clothes on a different size of model. And now it does seem to be more about fitness and health. Like even when I'm looking at stuff, it's like exercises you can do to feel strong as opposed to just looking skinny.
Right.
Again, it might be very naive, but it seems like it's gotten better that way. I hope.
And that's a positive thing. Is it the greatest rite of passage of all time?
Driving, the best moment of my life. And I don't mean to insult my kids, but it was better than having them.
Right.
There was no bigger moment of freedom. And back when we got our license, we didn't have all this graduated licensing stuff.
Yeah, you just got
I
it.
dropped my dad off and I said, see ya.
Yeah.
16. Off I went.
Oh, I was so nervous for the test. So nervous for the test.
Oh, man.
Like that is one of those, exactly, like I remember every detail. I had to we live in the Toronto area. I live west of the city. I had to go to Scarborough, which is like an hour away, and do it out on the roads where I wasn't familiar with anything.
Do you know what I just found out? We had a birthday lunch, a joint birthday party with me and my big brother. And they started to talk at lunch about the fact that my brother failed once or twice. And that's why they sent me to a small town, because they knew if Chris couldn't pass,
Right, yeah.
there was no way Shauna was going to get it. So they sent me to Mount Forest, which is a lot of where the not so great drivers went to get their license, because it was like a teeny tiny town. You
Right.
didn't have to do traffic lights and stuff like that. But man, there is nothing better. However, likewise, there's nothing scarier than having a child going through this process.
I
'Cause
can't imagine.
my kid is 16 and he's signed up for March break driving school, and I'm terrified.
So he has what right now?
He has the G1.
So what are the rules for G1? He can't do highways?
I don't know. I need to learn the
think
rules. You can't do anything.
You have to drive with somebody
Right.
who's been licensed for X number of
Yes.
years, zero blood alcohol. You
Right.
can't drive on major highways that begin with the number 4. There's a lot of sort of things. And I'm sure that maybe wherever you live, there's sort of this sort of graduated licensing sort of thing. So you must be, I learned to drive from my grandfather. I was 13. We went to the back of an abandoned warehouse. And if I helped him load pallets into the truck, I got to drive for a minute. That's how I learned.
Yeah.
Now, it didn't equate overly well in the actual exam part. But
Where's the pallet question?
We're like, can I lift pallets before I do this test?
gas
please?
pedal down,
Yeah.
whatever, and off you go. How did you two learn?
I learned, my dad took me out, because so back in the day, we called it a 365 here in Ontario, where basically, I guess it's kind of like a G1 in that you answered 40 questions. I think you can get 3 or 4 wrong.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, you can drive as long as you're with somebody, I think it was 4 years plus. So it was pretty crazy. So yeah, my old man took me out.
Same with me, my dad.
Just back roads and things like that. And I do remember vividly driving with my 365, and it's back roads, side roads, no big deal. And then I made 2 or 3 turns, and then all of a sudden we were on like a pretty major road in Mississauga, just outside of Toronto. And I was like, oh my God. My dad's like, we just got to do it. And then I took a driving course. I took a March break course as well.
Oh, you did do the actual driver's ed?
Driver's ed, because I think you get a discount on your insurance or something like that. So it was like 4 days of like in class. And then I did more driver's ed, like the physical part with the driver, and then the test.
Yeah.
And I passed, like, and then back to those days, you just had the one test. That was
I
it.
know. It's a whole other ballgame about worry.
Yeah.
Like every stage of parenting gets somewhat easier in the sense that you have less requirement of your time, but then it's equivalent or more with the level of worry, because the thought of my son out there driving, like, I'm not prepared.
No, I think one thing that's easier than our parents had is like you could say to Jack, listen, I'm nervous, whatever. You have to understand that. I trust you. You got to focus. You got to pay attention, and you got to text me when you get to wherever you're going. You have to keep me in touch.
And I've never tracked him. He has a tracker, like he shares his location with his dad.
Yeah.
He has a cell phone. He had one much earlier than I would have let him, because we have joint custody and he's back and forth. But I've refused to track him. But now I'm starting to wonder, is this where I break? Is this where I want to put that the location services on them. I don't know. I don't want to.
I took my 15-year-old out just once so far, and he actually asked the again the other day. We just didn't work out. And I took him out driving, and it's so fun to see it through their eyes, right? Because it's just every little thing. Like parking is so exciting, right?
Yeah.
And a little heavy on the takeoff and a little clunky on the stop. But I get it, right? They have no feel. Like they just don't have any clue what's going on. And you go from 0 to 100.
But they're so cocky because they play the games.
Yeah.
They play the GTA. They play all these driving games.
Yeah.
And same thing, the first time my son says, can I drive home from the bus stop? And I was like, yeah, how bad could it be? Whoa, the takeoff.
Yeah. Oh, the takeoff? Oh, you need a neck brace.
Yeah.
I'm surprised you don't see more driver's ed guys and girls with neck braces on. This sounds terrible, but I even let my 13-year-old steer sometimes, just as like we're going up my street and stuff.
All dads do that.
Yeah,
I think that's a real dad thing.
I think it's a dad thing. And he's like, Dad, can I drive? Like, if we're just going from one house to another in my little town. And he oversteers, right? So it's like you're turning left, and then all of a sudden you're like, we're not doing a U-turn, bro.
Yeah.
Or like, there's one we're going on my street, and he's like, Dad, can I take the wheel? So he starts turning left, and I see a cyclist on my road. I'm like, I go, buddy, there's a cyclist. He's like, so what? I go, so what? I'm taking the wheel.
School of driving.
Yeah, like, because, their brains, like, he'd probably go right towards the person.
Sure.
So what?
You get 100 points if you take out a cyclist in the video games, Dad.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
So has Jack said, now that I have my license, when's the car coming?
It is everything he's talking about.
I can only imagine, man.
Every time we're on the road, that's the car, this car. He sends me videos all the time of what is a good first car.
Like earlier we were talking that I was concerned about $411 for gymnastics.
Oh, yes.
I should be counting my stars.
Oh, yeah.
It's only $411.
And we have a newer vehicle. We have an older Volvo that's like it's got a couple 100,000 K on it. And then just over a year ago, we bought a 4Runner. Which one do you think he wants?
Of course. Well, when you said he was pointing, I want that car, he's not pointing at a 1991 Ford Taurus. No, I know. But you know what? Having a bit of like, maybe I'm looking back at it with rose-colored glasses, whatever, but having that old kind of beater car, it's kind of like a rite of passage, right?
Yeah.
Like it's kind of like my first car for a little bit was like an 86 Buick Skylark.
Oh, yeah.
And then I got my mom's 91 Ford Taurus. Remember that thing, Johnny? It was burgundy.
They could go Tauruses.
They could go. You know what? I never went to a parking lot and had fun in the back seat. Burgundy on the outside, burgundy on the inside. But looking back, I loved it.
Did you also not have like a rear view mirror for a while?
Oh my God. That was ridiculous. So the rear view mirror
you're
fell
right.
off.
It was ridiculous.
The rear view mirror fell off, and I just never got it repaired. Because I'm always eyes forward.
No
right?
cops, eh? No cops pulling them over. Hey,
Always. Because I just
totally fun.
don't look behind, right?
You're not supposed to.
Eyes forward. A good soldier always moves forward.
Oh,
Anyways,
God.
I finally I think my dad finally saw it and was like, you got to get that fixed. And it was like a 5-minute job at the auto place.
Oh,
like they just glued it back up.
Yeah,
the other thing I did, remember this, one of my lights went, and I don't even know how this works. The high beams would work, but the regular car, the lights weren't working. And so one
sounds like a fuse.
One went, and then the other one went.
So you drove with high beams?
For like 2 weeks. I was going to Sheridan College. I was going to Oakville. So I was doing like a 25-minute drive. The people, like I would try just to drive in the day, but the odd time I get caught, and people would lose their mind on me. I know. So stupid.
That's the stuff. I mean, and I think that's what makes us nervous is we remembered what we were like as drivers. So yeah, pray for me.
Yeah.
Good luck, Jack.